Hi everybody, I'm Girl Writes What, and I've been writing a very great deal on something that has been referred to as financial abortion. I'm going to refer to it in a more value-neutral way in this series of videos, simply because the word abortion kind of makes a lot of people squirm, even people like me who are essentially pro-choice, and really because a lot of the time opponents seem to intentionally want to misconstrue it as uh, a man's right to force a woman to have an abortion, and that's just absolute nonsense. It's absurd, and it's totally not what any of this is about. So I'm going to call it, from this point on, legal paternal surrender. Um, Similar to what a woman can do with a newborn baby by dropping it off at a safe haven. Just an ability to walk away from any rights or obligations to a child that carries your DNA. Now, whenever I discuss this, I seem to come across a lot of comments like, men have an equal responsibility to prevent pregnancy. It takes two to tango. If he doesn't want to have a kid, he should keep his dick in his pants. He had his choice when they had sex. Um, just all kinds of nonsense like that. He needs to man up and be responsible. Just absolutely a lot of arguments that never seem to apply when uh, discussing women and their ability to abort unwanted pregnancies, or in their ability to drop babies off at safe havens, to adopt them out. Uh, Mothers have a variety, women have a variety of options, both after conception and after birth, to opt out of motherhood. And this is really what it comes down to. Nobody can force a woman to become a mother. Uh, it's just not something that anybody can force a woman to do. She has to choose that. And therefore, I just find it extremely, extremely distasteful that we as a society are willing to force the obligations of parenthood on men, especially when they have just the most minimal, next to no reproductive rights at all. That we hold somebody to this kind of obligation for 18 to 21 years based on the fact that he had sex. And I think since there are so many reasons, so many arguments against it that don't seem to hold water, and just so much to talk about, that I think I'm going to tackle them one at a time. And the first fallacious argument I really want to tackle is that men have an equal responsibility to prevent pregnancy. I It sounds like an atrocious thing. It sounds unfair. It sounds awful. Um, but honestly, there are a couple of reasons that it really is a fallacy that men have an equal responsibility for birth control, for preventing pregnancy. One, it's just illogical, and the other is that it's just unworkable. Um, I'm allergic to tree nuts. All right, so maybe a little off topic, but bear with me. I'm allergic to tree nuts, and if I consume, say, a hazelnut or a macadamia nut, I get to go to the hospital and get a few shots of adrenaline, and maybe get to stay there a few days in critical condition until I recover, hopefully. And this is my cross to bear. This is the risk that I live with every day, and because this risk affects my body, I feel that it's my responsibility. It is my responsibility to mitigate that risk. The buck stops with me. When I go to a restaurant, a lot of times I just don't end up ordering that piece of cheesecake because I have no way of knowing whether it contains nuts or traces of tree nuts. And if I ask the waiter and he can't tell me definitively Yes, the label says that this is a nut-free product, or the label doesn't have any warning that this contains traces of tree nuts or was made on equipment that handles and processes tree nuts. If he can't tell me any of those things, then I abstain from cheesecake. Sad but true. And I don't hold him responsible for that. I don't expect that when I go to a restaurant and the waiter offers me dessert, that he's going to say, "Here are our dessert selections. Um, these are the ones that don't contain tree nuts," because this is my issue, not his, and I'm the one who's going to have the consequences, not him. And I don't expect him that when he hands me the dessert menu, he says he's going to say to me, "By the way, are you allergic to anything that could be contained in these desserts?" It's really not his responsibility to say that to every single customer uh, based on the potential for one of them being allergic to something that's even really a common allergen. It's my responsibility because it's my body. See, and that's how that works. It may be my burden and it may be an unfair burden, but it's definitely my job to handle and mitigate the risks involved. And if I fail because I'm careless, or because I don't bother checking, or because I read the ingredients and it says may contain traces, and I think, well, what the fuck anyway? I really feel like this chocolate bar right now. Um, if I end up getting sick from that, that's my fault. It just is. And so really it's illogical to say that there is an equal responsibility on men to prevent a physical state that only affects women. Do they have some responsibility to abide by her wishes in that regard, to abide by the level of risk that she is, the minimum level of risk that she is willing to tolerate? Absolutely. But she really should be the one who determines what level of risk she's willing to accept, and she should be the one to ensure that all parties are doing their job, doing their part, mitigating the risks to her. So that's reason one. Reason one why it's illogical to insist that men have an equal responsibility for birth control. Reason two is that it's just really unworkable. It's not doable. It just isn't. Um, Number one, women have more and more effective non-permanent options with respect to preventing pregnancy. Um, they have 100% meaningful power of decision as to what level of risk they're willing to tolerate. And when I say meaningful, I mean informed. Um, a woman is fully capable of ascertaining every time, on a case by case basis, every time she has sex, whether her partner is responsibly abiding by their mutual decision as to her acceptable level of personal risk. That is, men's only non permanent birth control option, the condom, is entirely visible to her every time he uses it. She can observe whether he's using it or not, whether he's using it properly or not, if she's paying attention. He can observe that too. If he's not doing that at any given time, she can refuse to consent to sex based on her absolute and confirmable knowledge of the increased risk to her of pregnancy. Every time they have sex, she's able to insist that he puts the frickin' thing on, that he puts it on properly, and therefore she can give meaningfully informed consent based on something other than his word. On the other hand, the most common and most effective forms of birth control for women um, are not visible to the man. He really has no way of knowing, and arguably no right to know, if she's taking the pill properly or at all, if she's lying about it, if she went and had her IUD removed without telling him. Only she can know these things. He really has no way to independently absolutely, confirmably determine whether she's living up to her share of their mutually agreed upon measures to prevent pregnancy. Um, for a man, informed consent amounts to taking a woman at her word and trusting that she's being responsible. He has no real meaningful wherewithal to protect himself from deceit or to mitigate his own risks because he really has no way of ascertaining for sure what those risks are. She does know, however, whether she's been taking her pills on time or at all, if she's taken antibiotics that interfere with their effectiveness. Um, in fact, she's really the only person who has a right to know these things. Uh, in many cases, she's the only person who can know, um, and she does not have to share this knowledge with him. She really doesn't. It is her body, and it's her right to privacy. Um, so if she knows she missed a pill and she doesn't inform him or insist he use a condom, then yeah, I think the greater share, perhaps full responsibility of that pregnancy lies on her. If he refuses to wear a condom, knowing that she's, say, missed 3 pills in a row, or that she hasn't been taking them properly, or that she's been on antibiotics, um, if he refuses to wear a condom, then she's absolutely capable of saying, well, then we're not having sex. Um, she's the one. She's the one who gets to make that call. She's fully informed of and fully in control of the level of risk that she's willing to tolerate. Um, if she agrees to sex without a condom, even though she hasn't taken 3 pills, um, then she's agreeing to a level of risk that she obviously finds acceptable. And if she lets him proceed without a condom, without informing him she missed 3 pills, then he's not agreeing to his own acceptable level of risk. Because his determination of the risk is based on her failure to inform him of that. For these reasons, the greater wherewithal to prevent pregnancy, because women have more effective and more unilateral options in that regard that aren't permanent. The greater risk, personal risk and burden of the pregnancy itself, the ability to demand observable preventive measures on the part of the other person, that she can insist he wear a condom, and she can observe that he is and is using it properly. And the greater ability, therefore, to give meaningful, informed consent. I really feel the buck for preventing pregnancy needs to stop with the woman. And frankly, it needs to stop with someone, for crying out loud. A democracy of two simply can't work. It's never been able to work. Somebody has to have the final say. And when it comes to decisions that affect women's bodies, they have to have the final say. And with the final say, with the ultimate authority, has to come ultimate responsibility. She's the only person in this equation who has any meaningful ability to ascertain what the risks are, and what level of risk she's willing to tolerate, and she has the greater consequences should that risk be improperly or poorly managed. She has all the information. She has 100% say each time they have sex. And in my opinion, she has the greater share of accountability with respect to an unplanned pregnancy. She just does. And like I said before, it sounds unfair. It really does. But the buck has to stop with someone. And it really shouldn't stop with a person who is not the one who gets pregnant. Women have this power. They have this power. And to frame it constantly as a burden, it shouldn't be all her job. It's ridiculous. How hard is it to take a pill every day? How hard is it to have an IUD implanted? How hard is it to inform him of the fact that you missed some pills, and he needs to wear a condom for the next 3 weeks. These are not difficult things. These are not huge burdens. And portraying them as gigantic, huge burdens that we place on women is absolutely ridiculous. And the only reason they are framed that way ever is because of the burdens of pregnancy. The burdens of preventing pregnancy are actually fairly small. They're very, very easy to work around or with, or combine or enforce for a woman. There's just really no excuse. There's no excuse at all. And to not say, listen, it's your job. It's your job to manage this. It's not your job to be the one who has to take birth control, but it's your job to determine what birth control measures are going to be used and to make sure that they're used. And really, I just can't put it any plainer than that. Women insist on owning their own bodies, but not when it comes to, fully owning their own bodies. This is my body, my choice, my right to consent, my right to give birth, my right to abort, my right to dress how I want, my right to do whatever the fuck I want with my body. But it's not my job to mitigate my own risks. And that's just, it just seems like a complete abdication of any sense of personal responsibility on the part of women for what happens to their own bodies. And it's all the more egregious when you consider how many options women have, how easy it is to get one of those options and use it. How easy it is to just be honest with a man and say, I'm not on the pill, or, I don't quite have it covered, or I don't feel 100% like we should have sex without a condom, that I want you to do this, I want you to put that on. There's just really no excuse for women being somehow incapable. They're just unable to handle it. If they're allowed to do whatever they want with their own bodies, then it should be their job to take care of them. And that's just the way it is. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that something has to be your job, but because it's your body, the buck stops with you. Anyhow, that's all I have to say about that particular ridiculous argument, that men have an equal responsibility for preventing pregnancy. And I suppose in my next video, I will tackle one of the other fallacious, ridiculous arguments that people use when they are debating from the position of wanting to hold men responsible for children that they never wanted. So for now, I'm Girl Writes What, and I'll see y'all later.